In the headlines, screenings to begin here on Sunday under a new miracle eye care mission by Venezuelan doctors. A hung jury in the McKinley-Williams murder trial, and the Bureau of Gender Affairs to enlist the religious community in the fight against gender-based violence. I am Andrea Louis with the Channel 5 News details after this. Thank you for staying with us. First up, a team of eye doctors from Venezuela is on a humanitarian mission to Dominica to provide support for the country's eye care system.
The doctors will begin screening of patients 18 and over with pterygiums and cataracts on Sunday. The Miracle Mission provides free quality eye care and is another example of cooperation and friendship between Dominica and the Republic of Venezuela. The first phase involves the screenings scheduled to take place from Sunday, that's Sunday, December 4 to the 10th. Screenings for patients from Warner to Scottshead starts on Sunday morning at 8 at the Venezuelan Institute on Victoria Street, that's close to DBS Radio. The medical team moves to Marigot on Monday and Portsmouth on Tuesday.
Defense lawyer Darius Jones, who represented murder-accused McKinley-Williams of Kingshill, says he is not surprised at the jury's failure to reach a unanimous verdict of murder and ending up divided 6-3 on manslaughter. Williams was charged with the murder of his cousin Dwight Auguste in December 2013 in Kingshill. Justice Victoria Charles Clark gave the 8-woman, one-man jury directions and sent them to deliberate. They returned after 2 hours of deliberation for further instructions. They again returned 2 hours later and told the court that they were not able to arrive at a unanimous verdict on the charge of murder and were divided 6-3. They were discharged and the court declared a hung jury since they can only come with a 7-2 or 8-1 verdict either way on manslaughter. Darius Jones said the jury was given a chance to visit the crime scene and this must have created doubts. Williams will now continue on bail and is set to return on 10th January 2017 at the next criminal session, where he will be told about the status of his matter. Asked about the possibility of a retrial, Jones replied, open quote, "I take everything one day at a time and I don't want to say much on the impending retrial. I will take it one day at a time. I am always ready," end quote. One of Dominica's main tourist attractions is back in action. However, visitors and locals alike are being advised to stay away from the area. The boiling lake, which had temporarily lost its boiling capabilities in early November, resumed this feature on 1st December. During its non-boiling state, the water levels at the lake had dropped significantly. However, while not back to normal, the water level has risen considerably now that the lake is boiling again. A stern warning had been issued to locals and visitors to stay away from the lake during its non-boiling state. This warning is still in effect due to concerns with the stability of the area. The last time the lake had stopped boiling was from December 2004 to April 2005. Meantime, Dominicans are being warned against tampering with sensitive and expensive equipment being installed for their safety. The word of caution comes from fellow research volcanologist with the UE Seismic Research Center, Dr. Irosila Joseph. When installed, the equipment will be used to monitor happenings at the boiling lake.
We are also looking at installing a camera to take photos of the lake, of course during periods when nobody's there, so we can see what is going on at the lake even when no one is around. And this information is also going to be collected by ODM and forestry and used as a form of monitoring of the lake. Both the ODM as well as the Seismic Research Center, we're putting in, an investment in the monitoring equipment for the purpose of looking at, potential changes in the activity at the lake.
Dr. Joseph is cautioning sightseers to the lake against damaging the equipment when visiting the area.
With the expense of installing the equipment, we have had times where people have tampered with and destroyed some of the, monitoring equipment, and we need people to be aware that this is not just this is for everyone's safety and the safety of, of the island, in terms of being able to get rapid data about what's happening, especially in a fairly remote location where it's difficult for people to be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We do ask that people be aware of this, and please do not tamper or destroy any of the equipment that you see that is there for monitoring the volcano.
A team from the UASRC is expected on island early next week to install the equipment. Dr. Francis Sevre believes autocratic rule poses many dangers to our democracy, but a key one, he says, is undermining the role of Parliament, a critical instrument in any democracy. Dr. Sevre says it is obstructionist and backward for any one person, especially the Speaker, acting as chief bully or bully in charge to frustrate elected members of the House.
What supposedly represents Parliament in many of our Caribbean countries is quite disappointing, to say the least. The Prime Minister's questions in the House of Commons on Wednesdays are instructive and give us a glimpse of what is possible in a parliament of elected representatives. The Speaker is a referee rather than patriarch or matriarch. It is quite common in the Caribbean for members of Parliament, MPs, who do not form the majority party, to be treated as though they do not represent significant sections of the population as well.
Dr. Sevre also believes the role of the police commissioner and the police force can be compromised under autocratic rule.
Political interference in the police force, as indeed in any other state institution, diminishes its legitimacy and ultimately its ability to effectively execute one of its most basic functions, that is controlling crime and violence. The views of Anthony Harrier, 2000, professor of political sociology at UWI Mona, are instructive. He says, the extent and character of corruption in the police institution may not simply affect its effectiveness, but more importantly, it may, in very profound ways, alter its symbolic representation in the consciousness of the population it is supposed to serve, thus contributing handsomely to the legitimacy crisis.
Dr. Sevre says the most blatant and shameless indication of autocratic rule is epitomized by what happens to some public servants because of their political affiliation.
There are many public servants who are sympathetic to the opposition and are expected to make themselves invisible or inconspicuous during election campaigns. They must not display decals and flags on their vehicles. Some of those who are courageous enough to demonstrate what side they are can relate anecdotes of being victimized. Example, being overlooked for promotion. Autocratic rulers are even prepared to go beyond the public service that is under their direct control and attempt to force the hands of private sector employers to threaten the jobs of their employees, especially when the latter speak truth to power. In essence, if you do not support the autocratic ruler, you must starve. Your belly must be empty.
Dr. Sevre was delivering the 11th annual Dame Eugenia Charles Memorial Lecture on the topic, Them Belly Full But We Hungry, Insight into Autocratic Rule. For the first time in its fight against gender-based violence, the Bureau of Gender Affairs will be engaging the religious community to help its cause. The inaugural workshop with religious leaders is scheduled for 5th December.
We're also planning for the first time a church leaders workshop with different church leaders from different denominations over the island. And what we want to do, the main goal of this is to actually start conversations on gender-based violence with our churches. So hopefully, this goes well, and I hope that the church leaders show up and then the conversations are meaningful as we go forward.
Morgan says due to the large influence of religious leaders on the population, it is only natural that they be enlisted in this battle to eliminate gender-based violence.
Mostly everyone here knows that normally in the churches, the first point of contact when experience abuse is the pastor. And I think it's important that, they are sensitized on gender issues and gender violence to know how to go forward from then on. So the point of the workshop, I mean, we don't expect, such a major change, but at least to get the ball rolling, start the conversation on gender-based violence, sensitize them so that they know how to deal with the situation.
The Bureau of Gender Affairs is currently observing the 16 Days of Activism campaign, which ends on 10th December. You are watching the Channel 5 News. More after the break. Welcome back. A Cuban diplomat is confident that the Cuban government will maintain the legacy of Fidel Castro and continue aid to the Caribbean. Cuban ambassador to Dominica, His Excellency De La Rosa, says Cuba has sent 65,000 Cuban doctors and nurses to work in 63 countries around the world. He told a panel discussion on Castro's life that this sort of support is part of Cuba's solidarity to the Castro-led Cuban Revolution.
We have doctors and nurses in Africa, in Latin America, in all Caribbean islands. Now we have in a process to normalize the relation with the U.S. Some people are afraid. But when we happen, we forget to help another country. In the last day, people say, okay, Fidel died. So maybe the Cubans we forget to help another country. No.
De La Rosa has given the assurance that the Cuban government will not shortchange the Caribbean in the wake of Fidel's death.
Solidarity is something that Cubans have inside their bodies. It's something that we have to do it. So we are here, I am here to increase, to extend, and to improve the bilateral relation with Dominica. So don't be afraid that the young generation will continue the Fidel ideas.
A former parliamentarian is suggesting that the authorities consider incorporating aspects of Fidel Castro's legacy into its policies. Cuban-educated lawyer and former politician Julian Prevost is of the view that more of the former Cuban leader's principles should reflect in how the country is being governed. Prevost was among the first group of Dominicans to leave for a Cuban university.
We are not only there to understand Fidel's philosophy and to his legacy. We have to learn to apply it to our country too. We have to learn to defend it. And I'm seeing a lot of things here that we did not learn from Fidel. Fidel was our mentor. Then I ask myself, if he mentored all of us, why is that our policy is so different, sometimes opposed to each other?
Prevost does not believe that a current diplomatic relationship between Dominica and Morocco is in keeping with Fidel Castro's values.
Dominica has economic international relations with Morocco, the Kingdom of Morocco. Fidel supported the Polisario. Rusi, before him, supported the Polisario. He made several trips there. Because we know the history of the Polisario. Morocco invaded and took more than half of the territory and have them in abject poverty, almost slavery. And for the love of me, I cannot understand why our government would select to have economic relations or diplomatic relations with Morocco over Algiers. Algiers is an oil-rich country, a very high per capita income.
Meantime, Health and Environment Minister Dr. Kenneth Daru, responding to Prevost, thinks every leader is entitled to create their own legacy.
You could look at it at the other side of the coin, where Fidel was a man who made his own history, and he did it his way, as the song said. He didn't follow the footsteps of others. In other words, he made up his mind. This is what he believed in. And he went for it. Okay, so the same can be said of some of our leaders today, where we had a mind of our own and we make up our mind that this is the destiny that we want our country and our government to follow. And so you could look at it from this point of view, Mr. Prevo.
And the first of the last 2 platform projects for Miss Dominica 2016 is set to take place this weekend. The project, a food drive dubbed Queens and the Tins, will take place on Old Street opposite HHV Whitchurch and will include members of the royal family.
We're inviting the general public on December 3rd to come out and just make a small contribution, a small donation, whatever tin you have on you. I know that Saturday, everybody loves to shop on a Saturday. So if you go into the grocery store and you take 2 tins of corned beef or tuna, whatever it is, just take an extra one so that you can just drop in our box. The tin foods that we collect will be distributed to 4 communities on the island, and that will be decided by the Queens when we meet. But one of the communities that we most definitely want to target is the Kalinago territory.
The second platform project is a random act of kindness.
The Queens crew actually took on their own and decided to have a project, and it's really called a random act of kindness. So what they're going to be doing is that the crew, they didn't want me involved, they wanted to do this on their own. They will be cooking, I think, about 75 plates of breakfast, and they will be going around distributing breakfast to vagrants and I guess homeless people on the streets.
Tasia Flosak's reign as Miss Dominica 2016 will come to an end on the night of 24th February 2017. That's news. Kenny Williams is next with your sports highlights.
First up in sports, Isaiah Thomas Secondary and Dominica Grammar School have booked spots in the Sports Division Under-17 Football Championships with wins in their semi-final rounds on Friday. In the DGS versus Portsmouth Secondary game, DGS dominated 5-1. Shane Cochran scored a hat-trick with Eustace Phillip and Jante Kazimi supporting with 1 each. Richmond PLV scored the lone goal for PSS. Over at Dublin, ITSS beat St. Mary's Academy 3-2. Ferguson Royer netted twice, while Kellan Riviere scored 1 for ITSS. Daniel Dupini and Zion Emmanuel were the scorers for SMA. This means that DGS and SMA will meet up in the finals on Wednesday, December 14. Sports continues at Botanic Gardens, where semi-final action in the Dominica Cricket Association's T20 Intermediate League is carded for the weekend. On Saturday, Marino Evergreen and Point Michelle Cricket Academy will get things going in the first semi-final match. The action continues into Sunday with a clash of the Starlights and Police Sports Clubs in semi-final number 2. Both matches begin at 1 p.m. Next up, Middleham United have been stripped off their match points for fielding 5 unregistered players in a recent match of the DFA Flow Premier League against Petro Caribbean Point Michelle. As a result, Point Michelle was awarded match points and 3 goals. DFA urges all clubs to take the necessary precautions to ensure these situations don't reoccur and to ensure the success of the club licensing initiative. Meantime, there are a number of matches lined up in the First and Premier Division leagues of the DFA, including a featured game between top-ranked teams on Sunday. In the Division 1 League on Saturday, it will be a clash of the Point Michelle and Trafalgar football clubs at Newtown at 4. On Sunday, Benjamin's Park will be the grounds for the MV Maxano Bombers versus Mahosoka Strikers game. That match is carded for 4. Still in Sunday's games, Delton United will take on arch-rivals Club Louvier in the first match of a doubleheader from 3 at Newtown. At 5, it will be a face-off between Gully Dream Team and All Saints Football Club at 5. Meantime, in Premier Division games, on Saturday, Northern Concrete and Steel Bombers moves to the south to take on RIC Kensborough at Grand Bay from 3. Also on Saturday, there will be a face-off between the Sagicor Southeast and Middleham United teams at Dublin from 4. In the featured match of the top-ranked teams on Sunday, Central Cooperative Credit Union Dublin Football Club and Exodus will be looking to break the tie and add 3 more points to their tally at Dublin as the race to the top continues. That match is carded for 4 p.m. And finally, at Geneva, Caribbean Cool Harlem United will come up against Bath Estate FC at 4. Moving on to netball, 29 athletes have been called up to national duty to represent Dominica at the Caribbean Netball Association's Under-16 Netball Championship Cardiff for Trinidad in April next year. The netballers were selected by the sports division to start training. Preparations for the competition will begin on Saturday, December 3 from 9:30 to 12 p.m. at the Dominica Grammar School. Moving on to boxing, president of the Top Glove Boxing Club, Job Joseph, says preparations for the Boxing Extravaganza Part 2 have been impacted by the death of a local businessman, Anderson Jolly. Jolly's pharmacy was a major sponsor of the event.
Well, we have a little hiccups in seeing that our biggest sponsor, which is Mr. Jolly's, he passed, and the club will be doing something tomorrow at the funeral for him. So that have us a kind of, feeling a sad way because he's our major sponsor, our main sponsor. He's like the father of the club. If anything we'll ask, before we say it, Mr. Jolly's and his team will be willing to help the club 100%. So right now, the club is not on that high spirit because seeing that if you have a dad at home and he died, you'll feel. The club feel the same way about Mr. Jolly's.
The Boxing Extravaganza Part 2 is carded for December 26. On the Rounders scene, the Giant Mold Rounders League will enter its final round with the best-of-3 finals on Sunday. Dubla Almond Stars will do battle with Rising Stars of Grand Bay in the first of the best-of-3 finals at Portersville from 12 p.m. Previously, Dubla squashed all hopes of Max Roy's heading into the finals when they beat the league leaders by 20 runs. Royal Challengers had won 7 straight games before going down to Dubla. Finally, in sports, there will be island-wide domino action as the White Oak Domino League slams down on Sunday. 20 teams are a part of the competition.
In Zone A, we have Rockers versus Heats. We have Congo Research from Marigold coming against Public Enemies. We also have one case from Doden coming against Task Force. Fire Services coming against Tremors, and ACS Boys from Tashville coming against PT7, who making the debut for the first time. In Zone B, we have Wake Up Stars coming against Valiants, Dolphins coming against non-players, Stars from Anzimel coming against La Plaine, and Monzime coming against Layu.
That's all the sporting highlights for now. I am Kenny Williams. Have yourself an awesome weekend.
To end the news, the headlines again. Screenings to begin here on Sunday under a new miracle eye care mission by Venezuelan doctors. A hung jury in the McKinley Williams murder trial, and the Bureau of Gender Affairs to enlist the religious community in the fight against gender-based violence. Feel free to contact us at news@MarpinNews2ndDec2k16. You can also access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Andrea Louis, and to all our viewers around the world, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend.